through.
Yeah. Oh, everybody click your obnoxious little button and we'll get moving.
Acknowledge the fact that we're here doing exactly what we said we were going to be doing while we're here. Perfect. So welcome everyone. If you are new to us, thanks for coming. I'm Marnie, CEO of Lifecycle Insights, and we have Alex, the visionary of Lifecycle Insights. And we are going to talk about building a bridge from where you are in your QBR/VCIO/TBR, SBR, XBR process to kind of where you may want to be. We talk to prospects and partners every week about where they are in this process. And you see a lot of those in the chats that are coming in. Some folks say, I don't have a process. I've got an ad hoc process. I want to automate the process because I'd love to do more of these, but it takes forever to prep. Or I've got a regular process, but I'm always looking for best practices. And one of the things that while Lifecycle Insights is a platform to help you automate this and put a process that's scalable in place, we also recognize that all the things that we do, you could do manually. And so just defining the steps where you want to be and where you can go, we feel like everybody can walk away with some action items for tomorrow, whether you're a life cycler or not. So anything else to add to that, Alex? That's kind of how we were talking about it this morning, right? What is everybody going to get walk away with?
I want to bring up the cadence piece just one more time, because I literally just got off the phone or off the Zoom before this call with a prospect who said he's one guy tasked with doing business reviews for 100 customers. Well, I think that's not enough. I think you need another account manager at that level, but being one guy tasked with that, our QBR is even possible, right? That is literally more than one customer a day, every day for 90 days with no weekends, no days off on the weekends, no time off, no prep time. You're literally doing one a day every day. And I think a lot of MSPs find themselves in that boat where when they sit back and do the math, when there's only, 60 some working days in a week or in a quarter, it's not realistic to touch all of your customers every quarter. So that's okay. QBR is a terrible term. So let's use our snarky opportunity to say, get over that. And let's move on with the fact that a strategic business review needs to happen at a cadence that's okay with you and that's okay with your customer.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect place to start for this. As we mentioned at the beginning, we want to spend 30 minutes to kind of talk through these pieces and just to keep us in check, hold us to our process. We'll talk about the why, the what, and then the how. And so we're going to start with the why. If you have questions, feel free to put them in either Q&A or chat. Because, in the world of work from home, if you weren't ADHD before you started, you will be when you're done. So now you can check 9 places all at the same time. So Alex and I will keep track as we go. So Alex, you want to take the first one or two or talk through some of the bullets and when we can kind of chat through the why?
Well, we can talk through the bullets, or we can just talk about the fact that, for a decade or more, MSPs have been told you got to go have that strategic conversation with your customer, right? The techie stuff, everything we do, everything we buy, everything we resell to our customers, anyone with a credit card can go get it. The tech work is getting commoditized, and we just have to accept that. So the next step up from that, the next evolution of that is the bigger strategic picture conversation. And the why behind that is more than just go justify your existence, which a lot of larger vendors have told us over the years, you got to go do that QBR to justify your existence. In reality, what we need to do is have strategic conversations with our customers so they understand what their risk is, that it is their risk and not ours, right? As MSPs, you couldn't possibly buy enough cyber liability insurance to cover all of your customers in the event of an RMM breach or anything else. And just the fact that if you're not out there having that strategic conversation with your customers, someone else is going to. And I know that because a prospect came to me and said, I'm going to buy your tool. It was the toughest sales pitch I've ever done. He says, I'm going to buy your tool because my competitor is running around town telling all of my customers I should be doing strategic business reviews with him. And I don't have a process for it. And I don't know where to start. And I feel like your tool is going to give me the guidelines, the bumpers on my bowling alley to weasel my way down to a QBR at the end. And so, we have an example of a guy who is literally doing it because his competitor is running around town telling everybody, this guy should be having a strategic conversation with you. Cybersecurity is a big deal. If you're not talking about it, you have problems. And this guy's out here doing it defensively or reactively.
Yeah.
I want all of you guys to be the one who does it proactively and who maybe can go use this as a wedge sell between your prospects and whoever they're working with today. I don't want to ever sell again to the guy who goes, yeah, somebody took a presentation from a prospect in my area, from an MSP in my area. One of my customers took a presentation from them and they beat me up because I should have been presenting them a budget, or I should have been giving them strategic technology information. And it's not part of my process. So I'll get off my soapbox with that.
So I had a similar conversation, although I feel like the prospect I was talking to was a few weeks ahead or a few months ahead of the one that you were talking to. So I just spoke to someone probably a week and a half ago that said he was very concerned that someone could go to his clients and make some offerings or offer some services that he in fact offered, but because he didn't have regular conversations about the fact that he could do that work, that he would miss out on the opportunity to pitch that work to them. He said, I have very happy customers. We have great relationships. I come in, I do my business, I leave. And so they rarely have to speak to me, but I'm worried that if I don't have the conversations with them about what else we could do or strategy about what else they might need, that someone else could come pitch this notion of a business review to them and could easily steal a customer from them, even though he has very happy clients. And he really said, can you help me define the next thing I could do for them? So it's interesting because you and I talk about, we talk to a lot of people and we see in my mind, two different ways of going about this. One is I've got my largest client and I want to do a full business review for them. And I want to get into Lifecycle Insights and prepare for that business review. So I establish my whole process. And then I'm going to replicate that client over client. This guy that I was talking to had decided what he wanted to start with is I'm going to start, because I've had some of these clients for 6 years and they've never seen a full QBR. If I suddenly say to them, hey, I want to come chat with you for an hour and a half, and they're thinking I've never talked to you for more than 7 minutes in a row, what are we going to do? He needs to give them a bite-sized step as to what that conversation is going to be next. So we decided on two things. He wanted to first start looking at lifecycle management. So the warranty and asset renewal. So warranty lookups, asset renewals, build a list, and then say, I wanted to talk about these 5 questions. And he was going to start with a much slimmer risk situation where we're talking about, are you expanding locations, right? Places where there might be opportunity for him, but also places where the customer would see value in what they do and start to drive the next conversation. So instead of saying, I want to learn QBR with capital Q, capital B, capital R, he said, I just want the next piece. And that's really where we decided to say, like, how do we build the steps to get from one thing to everybody for everything for everyone?
Well, what I heard was everybody starts in a different place.
Yeah.
And so everybody's journey is going to be a little bit different. Everybody's bridge is going to be a little bit different, but it's a bridge from where you are today to what better looks like, what actually having a process for delivering on a recurring basis, whatever your timing may be, on a recurring basis, these types of reports, these types of conversations, these types of deliverables to your clients, so that you can build a practice that is an MSP business built around strategy, around business outcomes, around operational improvements and operational maturity of your clients, around really successful clients and helping your clients be successful with technology, as opposed to just going and doing the QBR of 1999, which is, let me justify my existence and tell you why you spend money with me. Here's how many tickets I closed. Here's how many spams I anti-spammed. Here's how many viruses I antivirused. Oh, and I did some backups, right? You're welcome. That'll be $3,000 a month, please. Right? That's a terrible conversation. Nobody likes that conversation. Cybersecurity is big right now. It's top of mind. It's front of mind. It's a good reason to have the conversation or to start the conversation. And it's evolving and ever changing, which is an even better reason to say, and Mr. Customer, we need to do this again in the near future at whatever cadence you and the customer agree on to continue to do it over and over. And it's an iterative process. We make it better every time.
Yep. And so you kind of already brought up the point, but we will certainly really drive it home with some
skipped ahead on my slides again, didn't I?
tried and true conversation here.
I'm
and
authentic.
that is clearly this problem is as old as time, because so are these phrases, right? How to eat an elephant one bite at a time. So we're going to tackle QBRs one step at a time. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. People that say, on New Year's Day, I'm going to go to the gym every day forever and I'm never going to eat sugar again. That is letting perfect be the enemy of good, instead of saying, I'm going to eat one more salad a week, right? Like an incremental process. Nothing beats perfect except done. And there are two types of people in the world: those who procrastinate, and the list trails off as we don't even finish, right? So let's take some action items of where we want to be. And that's really our goal today, is we're going to show you some components of the what. We're going to talk about some bite-sized pieces next. And then we'll dive into the platform to show you what that looks like. But again, any of these bite-sized pieces could be done with or without a platform, but you need to do something. Whatever you're doing, we bet there's the next step that we can move forward on. Yep. I saw we had a question. Is it something?
We do have a question. Okay. So, and this is just the statement of, we've stopped using the word review and we've started calling our regular meetings course charting. It's kind of helped shift the conversation to future business and changes and needs. Thoughts on this? And I will say, I absolutely love it. I've never heard that one. And it's not often that I hear one I haven't heard. So good on you. But the other thing is, I always talk about the difference between strategic and tactical, and how we need to move from tactical. What did I do for you? What could have been or is the content of tickets and emails and phone calls? If it's that small and that in a one-time fix, just done and out the door, it's tactical. It is we achieve something, we're done with something, we're moving on. Versus truly strategic, which is more forward-looking than backward, more course charting, which I think is fantastic. Yeah. And it really helps to guide where the organization is going in the future. Everybody wants to talk about them, and especially when you talk about where they are going in the future and how you're going to improve and grow their business and use technology to support that. I love that term. I will give you credit every time I steal it, but I'm going to. You'll hear that one again.
Consider it done.
That is a fantastic term.
It reminds me of the slide we had before of more strategy, less history, right? Yeah. When you take the word review out, it sounds less like, do you really want to go watch a book report of a book that you've read, right? A book review. Whereas, it's more interesting to talk about what do you think is going to happen next in a book. So I'm thinking about just back to school projects I had. So I'm going to jump into next, the what. So we want to talk about these 5 pieces of the what: cadence, plan, prep, delivery, follow-up. This will last maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then we're going to talk through actually building some of the what, so that you can see those. So Alex, we started talking about the cadence and segmentation at the beginning, just so we can say we hit the bullet point when we put it on the slide. You want to summarize kind of where we landed on that?
And there's more to talk about here, right? Cadence is about how often does it work for you and how often does it work for your customer. And at my MSP, I found that I might have a customer who I'm on the fence with, who I say, I could meet with them quarterly or I could meet with them semi-annually. So let's go talk to them and give them the option to pick the cadence that works for them. And the language I always used was at the end of my business review, and you've heard me talk about this before, I always ended my business reviews with, did we deliver value here to you today? Right. And this is a twofold question. This is a trick question. There's no wrong answer, right? If they say no, then this is my prime opportunity to say, man, I'm really disappointed to hear that. I'm gonna appear very taken back, and I'm gonna tell my customer, I put a lot of time and energy into this. Where did I miss the mark? Right? What can I do better or different to make sure that next time we do this, you actually want to come back to this conversation? Because cybersecurity is important. All of this is stuff that I feel like should help guide your business. And if I'm not delivering value to you there, that concerns me, right? So I'm going to learn, right? If they say yes, then I can take this question 2 different directions. One is, well, I'm really glad to see that you saw value in this today. I'd love to meet back to review updates and changes. And as we work through the process, update you on where we are and what the world has changed and what's going on. A lot of clients your size like to meet quarterly. I can see where in your industry, semi-annually might make more sense. Do you want to do this again in 3 months or 6? Let them pick. You gave them 2 options that you're okay with. Yep. Whichever option they pick, you're going to be all right with. And guess what? Next time it was their idea that you're going to come back in 6 months and they're going to hold you to it. They're going to expect it from you and they're going to be happy to be there. But the other win to that question is you also get to follow it up with, I know you told me that I delivered value to you today. This is my opportunity to help grow my business. And, nobody likes a pushy salesman. Nobody likes to hear this kind of stuff. But part of my job is to grow the business. Is there anybody who might see value in the same conversations that you and I had today? And would you be willing to make an introduction for me? Right. And I got more referrals with that simple line at my MSP than I can count.
Yeah.
We didn't do marketing because of that line.
Regardless of where this flow chart lands, when you say, did it deliver value, you are getting value back from the conversation, and sometimes twofold in more referrals. So
there's no bad answer to it, right? Even though you didn't really deliver value to you, it tells you that that your customer is going to know, that your customer is going to give you the feedback of, no, this was not valuable to me. Well, guess what? Now I'm not going to ask him to come back next quarter. I'm not going to waste his time. I'm going to give him an agenda ahead of time next time and ask if he feels like that's more the right course. And I'm going to re-engage with this customer more often to get them to where I feel like that's the right answer. And we got folks asking if I read Grant Cardone material. I'll tell you my opinion on all of that is that nothing new has been invented in sales and psychology in the last 200 years. I don't know who I heard it from because I listened to a lot of people in these lanes, right? I've been through Sandler sales training. I've been through tons of these. I don't think you try and impersonate any one of those people, but I think that if you listen to them all with an open mind, even the salesperson that you listen to and go, ooh, that felt gross, you can still learn something from them about how you can do your job better or different. So very well could have been stolen from Grant Cardone, but I couldn't even tell you anymore because I listened to so many of them.
Well, and sometimes a counterexample to your point is like you learn what not to do. I learned a lot from some terrible bosses because that won't be the way that ever happens.
And the salesperson that makes you feel slimy, I always ask everybody, dissect what they were aiming for, not what they said to get there, because they probably had a boss who told them you have to extract this data point and budget's a perfect one. Everybody sounds slimy when they go, what's your budget? How much money can I get you to spend on this? Right. But if they come back and say, hey, you know what, customers your size typically spend between $2,000 and $3,000 a month to solve for the kind of problems that you have. If I came back to you with a number like that, are you going to throw me out of your office or can we continue the conversation?
Yeah, that's much more palatable.
It's authentic, it's palatable, and the customer gets where you're going with it. And they don't feel like my goal is just to go, how much are you willing to spend? I'll spend every dollar of that, right? So think of it from that perspective.
Could you repeat that phrase again?
Yeah. So, the conversation that I use for budgeting is always, if I were to come, customers your size typically spend between and two numbers with a big wide berth, right? $2,000 to $3,000, right? To solve for problems like this, problems like we've been talking about in your organization. If I were to come back to you with a number that's in that ballpark, can we still do business together? And depending on how jovial the customer is with me, I'd even ask them, or are you going to throw me out of your office, or can we not be friends anymore, right? But can we still do business together if I come back with a number like that? And if the customer comes back to you and says, there's no way I can do $2,000 to do this project, this just can't happen. Now you know what kind of a customer you have, and you have the option to step back and say, okay, we can do less. There are things I can take off. There are products and services you cannot buy from me, or this is a customer that doesn't fit. If they say, I could do 2, but I couldn't do 3, or 2,500, so you better not be at $3,000, but we can still have a conversation. Guess what? I'm coming back at $24.99 a month. Right? Congratulations, Mr. Customer. I got great news. I solved for every problem you had, and it's less money than we talked about.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's well within the budget that we talked about. So, budgeting is a tactic that comes from Sandler sales training. It sounds slimy when they do it. I hate it. So I've kind of revamped it and kind of done it my way, and kind of made it almost a joke, but a good, healthy conversation. So another really great sales tool.
Well, it also points to the solving the problem piece. And if you're paying attention in the chat, I did type that out if you want to cut and paste it into your own notes.
And we'll give a recording for this too. If you sign up, you'll get the recording. You get to listen to me so many times you'll be tired of hearing me.
Absolutely. Well, I won't say absolutely to that, but so we'll go through these next. I'm reading the chat. 3 to 7% of gross statistically spent by an average business in any given industry. That's in the 20 to 80% of revenue respective to their industry. Oh, on IT. Gotcha.
Yep.
So I'm gonna jump to plan, and here I wanted to talk about the timeline of what we look at in if you're trying to come up with next steps in what your QBR process might look like, right? You've decided on a cadence for them. Now you need to create a plan. And now we're talking about a plan for an individual client. And so this really starts with the agenda. Part of what we will send out, I'm making myself a note, send out the QBR your customer deserves, includes the agenda that we recommend. But in that agenda, we recommend 3 weeks in advance, sending out a shared document that really shows it's going to be strategic. So if you have not had these conversations before and you're not sure how you can say, if you just call a client, say like, hey, I wanted to come chat for 90 minutes, they're pretty confident they're not going to get any value because they don't know what you're going to say, right? And they think you're going to talk about flux capacitors and widgets and gadgets, et cetera. But if you send an agenda in the advance and say, hey, as we start out the new year, we bet there are going to be some changes in your business. And we wanted to talk about some things like, are there areas of expansion or contraction in your business? Will you be getting new locations? Are you growing? Will you have new staff? Are there new verticals or markets you're addressing? Are there trends in the industry? These are types of things to put on that agenda so that they understand you're going to have a strategic conversation, as Alex said, about their business, not your business. And so we'll include some of those question points when we send out the email so you can see kind of an outline of what we've used and recommended as an agenda. But any other sentence or two on the plan piece other than get ahead of it, don't blindside them with the topics so they know value's coming.
Don't blindside them with the topics so that they know value is coming. Get topics from them, because again, everybody likes to talk about them more than they like to talk about you. And they probably like to talk about both of those things more than they like to talk about cybersecurity, because it's a boring, terrible topic that they're afraid of. But the other purpose of the agenda is to prove to the customer that this is not just a sales pitch, right? This is a strategic eye-opening. You know, this is that course charting. And here's what we're going to talk about that looks forward into where we're going, not backwards into why I existed. And some of us are going to have to go back and apologize to our customers and say, yeah, we've done this before, and maybe we didn't do the best job. So we've reinvested in, we've reevaluated, we're improving this process and trying to make it a more strategic and less tactical, a more value add and less salesy approach to having conversations with our customers. So don't be afraid to go back and have those conversations, right? It is that time with our customers.
And you might want to put your comment to everybody, just put it into the panelist chat.
Oh, that's terrible.
So for the prep piece, I just want to give a couple of examples of our partners that have turned the dial on the way they used to prep. So one of our partners, Raj, used to spend 12 hours defining a budget, a line item budget for his, that was both a short-term year out budget, asset by asset, as well as a long-term 5-year, guest budget. But he told us it took him 12 hours to prepare for that using an Excel spreadsheet. So he's really gotten that to be automation. So when you think about what you need to prepare, we're talking about an assessment responses, right? That's going to be manual because you're asking questions that are business strategy related. There's no magic button for that. Will you use pieces that you automate, like a network detector that gives you information to respond? Absolutely. But does anybody want to see 700 pages of that information? They do not. In the same way that when you get blood work, you get a whole list of things. And what do? I just go care about the low that the doctor told me to look at. That's what you need to take a look at. So the prep involves the assessment component and then automating what you can automate, an asset list, your user list and reporting, cybersecurity training that can come on that list, and a budget, right? You got to get to the budget. So if we're looking at bite-sized chunks, this is where we really start to look at those bites. So since we're in prep, let's define what those bites are. And then, we promised 30 minutes. So we've got 3 more minutes to kind of wrap up these pieces. And then if anyone wants to stay on and we'll walk through the platform, happy to do that.
And there's a couple questions we got to answer too. So we're taking our 30-minute Thursday very
seriously,
not so literally,
right to the end.
But we'll get through it.
Let's talk through those reports real quick then.
And we'll stay on and answer this stuff for you guys, answer questions. Even if you have to split, we'll include them in the follow-up recording. So appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we really start with an executive summary, really theming all of the pieces that we've had done. But if you're starting with, I'm doing nothing right now, we'd recommend an agenda to start having a conversation, start small, and then pick one of two paths. Have the conversation around replacing warranties. We do a warranty lookup report, right? Or asset lifecycle management. That's a bite-sized consumable piece you could do. Having a user list where you can see who's in Active Directory versus who's in Microsoft 365 versus in your PSA, et cetera. So you can really start aligning and seeing if there are licenses out there that are hanging out exposed to folks.
And then, the iteration of that is add more detail, right? The first version of it might just be, here's the users we support, and here's their Microsoft 365 license. The next version might include, here's MFA status turned on or off. Here's some information about your cybersecurity training and who's clicking on all the links and who's not, and who's scored well in their cyber training and who hasn't. So think about the iteration of these. These documents are not frozen in stone and going to be the same every time you go out. They'll get better over time.
So after the user list, then the budget would be the next large chunk. You could build recommendations and pull contracts in from your PSA to build a full budget. That's kind of all the components we could automate for you. And then on the assessment side of the house, we have one question that asks, is there a good way to leverage Lifecycle Insights and the reports to gain prospects? So you absolutely can use our assessment platform for pre-sales. We don't have we don't pull the assets in because you don't have them in your PSA right out of the gate. The nice thing about doing that with pre-sales is that those clients don't count against your subscription. So any pre-sales prospect assessments that you want to do would be free. You could just add them. And when I get into the platform, I'll click into that.
A lot of MSPs will use a different template for a pre-sales customer, right? At my MSP, the pre-sales template was 30 questions. The regular customer template was closer to 50, right? My pre-sales template is limited to things that I can ask and my customer will answer. Do you have a policy for X, Y, or Z? Can you show me an asset inventory? Those kind of things. Things that I can see. I walk in the server room, I look around, I pull out the little tab on the Dell server, I take a picture of the serial number and I go look to see if it's under warranty or not. And things I can scan for, right? What can I find with a rapid fire tools or a cyber CNS or one of those kind of things? So pre-sales, are they in Office 365? That's a green answer. 90 days later, in Office 365 is yellow unless they also have multi-factor authentication enabled, zip files blocked from being emailed, and a bunch of other security best practices that make Microsoft 365 secure. So at pre-sale, I'm just looking at, are they where I could support them if they came on as a customer? Post-sale, 90 days in, 180 days in, whatever, we're applying a tougher filter to all of that. So Nicholas, I hope that answers your question. And I'm happy to circle back if you want to have a conversation about that another time.
So really then tying together the assessment and the asset pieces in recommendations is kind of the last component, and wrapping that all together into, wouldn't you say, the sort of the end process, the full shebang, as I like to call it, would be building out your full QBR process in Report Builder, right? Which really lets you create one button that you can replicate over and over again across clients. Yeah. So that gets you through the prep of the reports, and really the delivery of that is within the either Report Builder where you can download the full stack of items, or in the presentation mode that lets you, in the work from home category, you can show it on your screen without the noise of the rest of the platform. And follow up is really, how do you handle the action items from here? We have one partner who has his intern and a tech fill out make sure the data cleanup is done and build their recommendations. He's delivered the QBR 15 minutes before he presents. He presents for an hour, then he spends 15 minutes making tickets to make sure all of the action items are covered and making sure the notes in Lifecycle Insights are well documented. And the interesting piece is that we are going to be pushing to tickets in the next few weeks. That's in active development right now. So
let's be clear. That guy is a freak of nature and is a ideal goal for most MSPs, right? That is a stretch goal for most MSPs, but it's also an example of where you could get if you continue to work to improve this, right?
Yes, I'm going to add, and some folks have to jump, so please feel free. It's been half an hour, but we'll keep going and we'll send out the recording. We've been asked, do you have a template of questions mentioned in pre-sale? We do. It's actually in the platform. If you hit assessments and manage assessment templates, you'll see that at the bottom, you can import in your platform. I'll click on that real quick. And question for the end of the presentation. Alex, you want to look at that one while I jump into the platform?
Yep.
And
go ahead.
All right. Okay, so Alex will talk about cleaning up data, and I'm going to kind of walk through those pieces.
Yep.
If you're brand new to to QBRs and you just want to do the asset list that we talked about, some pieces to look at. You very much want to look at your data quality score. And if you're missing any data, go see what that data is. So you want to focus on end of life and making sure that anything you want to address has an end of life date, because that's what will push it to the asset list of when it's going to expire. Same thing for warranty expiration dates. If there are assets that you want to make sure you report out on, needing a warranty, make sure they have an expiration date so that when you go into the asset list, you can build the report however you want. And that magic is done in the gear with manage columns, asset columns. And I'm going to turn on warranty renewal cost. And just for the sake of this, I'm going to turn off the expiration date, the end of life, replacement cost, maybe the operating system serial number, and I can build the report that I want to deliver to my clients. If I'm not worried about the ones that are missing dates, in Lifecycle, you can always swatch out those dates, right? So take away the blue where we're missing information, and you could download this report. So that works the same for your warranties. You could build an asset list the same way. If you look at the testimonial on our website, William did this with just asset lifecycle management and sold a $40,000 and a $60,000 project in his first week of the trial of Lifecycle Insights. Not everybody has partners that'll say like, okay, we're going to get the red out. Send me a check for $40,000 and we'll replace all your expired assets. But he did have a couple. And this year with payroll protection program money, you may have a couple. So something valuable to take a look at for sure. User list is the same idea. Where are you not aligned, right? If you haven't started having these conversations with your clients, where do you have someone that maybe is not in your PSA, but has a Microsoft license? And maybe they haven't logged in a couple months, right?
Or if they are logging in and you're billing per user, it's a user you aren't billing for.
One way or the other, conversation we had here, right?
Yeah.
We pull contracts over. So if you're interested in like how to build a full budget forecast, I'd recommend checking us out on YouTube and looking at build a budget. But here you can pull over contracts and recommendations to build that full budget forecast. So asset list, user list, then let's work on delivering a full budget to your clients. And then in the world of assessments, I mentioned I would show this in manage assessment templates. If you go all the way to the bottom, there's a pre-sales assessment.
Your bottom won't be as far down as ours.
We have a lot in our library.
You'll see one or two at the top that are yours. And then under that black bold line, or the black bold text, you'll see the rest of these. And the pre-sales one's the one all the way at the bottom. If you're new to the platform and you don't know where to start, pre-sales and the lifecycle default assessment are two really good ones to start with. Customize, make them your own. Don't come in and just steal ours and try and go present it to your customer, because again, we're back to stuff that won't come off as authentic. Customize it, make it your own, make sure that it references the same kind of conversations you've been having with your customers, and then continue to add to it and grow it and make it better and more dialed in and more complete as you go.
And you will want to, on the right-hand side, import it into your site. These are our templates so that you can review them. You'll want to click over on the right to import them so they show up in your library at the top. You can edit it from there. So that's really the quick way to land with an assessment event. And then the end result of all of these pieces is when you have the components that you like stacked together, you can compile them and build your own kind of report binder of the components, the reports that you would like, so that I'm going to show you my favorite template and how now, as I click through and you see these are the reports I like to have in the order I like to have them. When I switch from creative designs to Get Well Medical Services, the budget and all of the reports move from creative designs to Get Well Medical Services. So now I can replicate my process over and over again.
And if you're going out to see your customer, you can print it out into a little book, right? Keep it all nice and handy for your client. If you're doing it digitally, Marnie will show you how presentation mode works. So if you're doing this either at their conference room table with a projector, or if you're doing this, over Zoom, like so many folks are these days, this will save you from having to take everything out of a platform and move it into a PowerPoint. We have kind of PowerPoint Lite baked into the system so that you can quickly and easily get this data back out to your customers.
Yep. So we have certainly shown you the steps, hopefully starting from where you are, even if that place is, I'm brand new and I'd like to start with, sending out an asset warranty report or end of life asset list, to the full scope where I've got assessments linked to recommendations and projects. So hopefully we can start from where you are to where you want to be. And we'd love to chat if you're still thinking like, okay, I got pieces of what I want to do. How do I do that next? Absolutely reach out. Alex, do you want to add anything, put contact information?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put the info at lifecycleinsights.io in the chat. If you guys have questions, you're welcome to reach out to us right there. We'll schedule a time to talk to you. Jason Beckmeyer, though, had a question that we haven't completely answered, which is if your data is not buttoned up, which I promise you that applies to every MSP, no matter how good you think your data is, when you connect to a tool like this and start doing real analytics on your data, you'll find out that it's lacking. We actually have, and Marnie can show you, a data quality report baked into the tool. So we realized this early on with some MSPs who were very advanced, who had a very high revenue number and who really had some bad data. So what you find is that we've shown you the customers that are green and ready for a business review, and the customers who are yellow or orange or red who aren't ready. And we give you some places where you need to clean up the data. This is just the start, right? This is going to tell you that you have an asset, but it doesn't have an end of life date, or that doesn't have a warranty date. It's not going to tell you don't even have a switch documented for this customer. And you're going to find that as you go. So this just reinforces that this is an iterative process. We'll start you here. We'll help you clean up the data that you have in the system that needs to be improved. You'll go meet with your customer the first time and they'll say, where are all my printers? Where are all my battery backups? I don't see my telephones on here, right? And then you'll have a conversation with each customer about at what level of detail do you want to document and budget for, because imagine everything you ever documented landing on a budget, that's nirvana. And you'll address with each customer, hey, does $149 battery backup underneath everybody's individual PC, does that qualify for something you want to see on the budget? Do you want me to inventory every monitor? And this is a case-by-case basis. Some customers will say yes. And I had customers who were willing to inventory it themselves in remote locations and send me the inventory if I would put it in my system and help them track it, because down to the $149 monitor, they cared. I had other customers who went, it's $150, man. If I can afford to talk to you, I certainly am not worried about $150. Just do it. Don't worry about the monitors or the little things. So I think there's a yes in there, that nobody's data is perfect, and we give you some tools to help to clean it up. The other is that for every MSP and for every MSP's customer, perfect might be different. And a lot of that goes to, again, keeping your DNA in this process and making sure that this is something that is an evolution of the relationship you already have with your customer. I really hesitate to have any MSP go, I bought a new tool and now everything's different with my clients and I'm going to go change the world with this fancy new thing, right? This is an iteration. This is pick it up where you are, start where you are, build that bridge and get yourself over it. And that's really why we structured today's conversation the way that we did, was because we know, and I hate that every MSP thinks that their company is some special flower. Guess what? You guys are all the same. You're just at a different place in your MSP, and we need to get you to continue to improve and continue to iterate until we can make this better. So, the conversations move from tactical to strategic at some point in the MSP's relationship with their clients, at some point in the MSP's evolution as a company, and then we just continue to improve what strategic looks like over the years. And it won't be the same in 2022 or 2023 as it is today, not even for top performers. So, don't be upset if you're not there. you can only start where you are and continue to work at it. And that's my last soapbox moment for the day, hopefully.
Perfect. So you will all be getting the recording from us. So I'll hit stop on that and follow up, and we'll include links if you're interested in having further conversation with us, along with kind of an example of the QBR your customers deserve, so you can see what that looks like. And if you have any questions, absolutely, please reach out to us anytime. We try to be everywhere. So.
We got one more question here.
Yep. One client thanked him for being proactive. Nice.
And produced $10,000 in revenue.
Okay, we love that.
Yeah, so I'm sorry that you have to do all the work that comes along with $10,000 in revenue, but Merry Christmas.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I love to hear those. Like those warm my heart. So take Bill's example. He didn't even do the whole thing yet. It was literally just start where you are, get something out the door, and you'll see little improvements. And Bill, yours will get better every time. And that same customer will write you a few $10,000 checks over time as you work on this. And more importantly, you'll sell them more MRR, and they'll write you bigger checks every single month. And that is because you're giving them a win-win, which is a more secure, stable environment that they have to purchase some products and services, and you happen to make money on. So I love the win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks
Awesome.
all.
Thanks, everybody.
Have good afternoons.